Hey, so today I want to talk about AI agent observability and governance. I feel like this is going to be the hot topic of the second half of 2026. And the reason I think that is because we have this agent sprawl that's occurring. Agent sprawl is not necessarily a bad thing, right? There's organizations and people in those organizations who want to build out agents to make their department or their company more efficient. And so in that case, you'll see that you'll have dozens and dozens of different agents operating across different platforms, right? Maybe one's in Salesforce, maybe one's in AWS, maybe Copilot, maybe Domo. And this sprawl, in order to govern this sprawl, you need to be able to have observability, right? And so that's where coming into the second part, um, there are great observability platforms out there, such as Datadog or Splunk. And the goal is to take all of your AI agent data, so logs, transcripts, all that stuff, port it over to an observability platform like Datadog so that it can be the source of truth and that it can unify all your logs together. And then ultimately, you can use a BI tool like Domo to actually, create business dashboards, right? Oftentimes, these observability platforms they'll have very complex queries, so they're not super user friendly. But using a tool like Domo, you can actually pull from those platforms to create this kind of pipeline, and that way you have a pipeline that shows your AI agents who's using them, which ones are breaking, what cost is like, and which ones aren't working as expected. And so today, what I'm going to talk about is how not all of these software platforms are created equal in terms of what they can send over to an observability platform. And I'm going to demo a couple features that Domo uses to be able to make your agents very observable and also give you easy ways to govern your agents across your organization. So let's first talk about observability. So in this case, I just signed up for a free trial of Datadog. And what I have here is I'm using their live tail feature, which just kind of shows live as logs come in. And I'm going to be using a new feature in Domo. So this is our activity log webhook configuration. If you're familiar with Domo at all, we have this very comprehensive activity log, but in this case, we now have a webhook feature where you can send things in real time over to an observability platform. All you'll do is you'll put in a payload URL. So in this case, I put in a Datadog URL, and then I can select what events I want to stream over to that platform. Just to show you, right, I could come in here, and if I select an event type, I could say, hey, anytime someone's using an agent tool or an agent at all, if they're executing it, I want you to send that log over to Datadog. And then ultimately, this is a list of logs to kind of show you in real time how this works. I'm going to come back here and we're going to do like a very simple AI chat, right? So in this case, I'm just going to come over here. We'll add a data source and we'll ask one of these out of the box questions. Which department has the highest total revenue? If I come back to my live tail in Datadog, we'll start to see these logs stream in real time. And we can see that the agent executed, right? It's pretty quick. Just to show you a couple of these logs, we can see who is executing the agent, what they're doing, right? So in this case, they executed the agent, and then we can also see that they are using the dataset query tool. And this is actually the dataset ID as well as the name of the dataset. Again, this just kind of provides greater visibility into the agent. And so ultimately, right, that agent answers a question. And as a front end user, I can see what the answer is. As a backend administrator, I can also see, kind of basics about what the agent is doing. Okay, so let's talk through another use case. Another use case is that we have these new conversational agents where you can basically create your own AI agent, give it knowledge, data sets, and it can answer kind of custom questions. I created this toolkit that is called my observability toolkit. And basically what it is it's a single tool that basically an agent is going to send over events to Datadog. Each time it decides on something and each time it executes a SQL query, it's going to use the send log function. And so just to show you what this looks like, if I come over here to my data analysis agent, I am going to ask it a new question, and we'll just use our classic example sales data set, which we all know and love. And then I'll just say something, what were overall sales? And so I'll ask that question. And so ultimately, we'll see some tool calls happen. We'll see the SQL tool call, but before that, we'll see a send log tool call, right? So in this case, the agent is sending some logs over to say it's going to use that, and then it's going to send some logs over after the fact. If I come back to my live tail and give it a second, we can see that we have our service, our Domo conversational agent. So you can name that service. And then we can see that right now it's querying overall sales, and then it'll continue to execute. And so then it queried it, right? It determined it. And then ultimately, as it's going, we can see that the answer came back. And so again, this is kind of close to real time. We're able to, as an end user is using our agent, they're able to get an answer, but then me as an administrator, I'm able to get all these answers, all this observability together into a single platform. And so the goal is that with all the agents that you're creating, you're doing the same paradigm, right? You're sending it over to a platform like this, and then ultimately you can create visualizations or dashboards to kind of, look at adoption, look at cost, and look at where agents aren't working properly. And so the final icing on the cake that I wanted to show is with Domo, a lot of our agents are going to be text to SQL based agents, right? So it's a user asks a question in plain language and then gets back a SQL response. Understanding what that SQL is going to be paramount to be able to monitor the agent. And so in Domo, we give you the ability to actually look at the SQL statements. And so in this case, this is a Domo stats report where I'm able to look, and I think it's called event outputs. I'm able to see actually what the SQL was. So in this case, this is a little raw, but I can see this is the SQL that's being executed against the data set. And so I can use that. I could also stream this over to Datadog if I chose to. And then ultimately, right, I can have better accountability and observability into my agents. So hope you found this helpful. Thanks.